Okay, good afternoon, everyone. If we'll go ahead and settle down, apologies to the committee and those in the audience. I actually left the office over at the Capitol in time to get here. The steps were a bit crowded with pictures, so I had to, walk from the Capitol to the CLB via the Ag building. So if you guys know what the Capitol is laid out like, you'll know the trail I took. We have before us a couple of bills for our consideration, as well as a presentation from the State Workforce Development Board on our agenda. If there's no objection, we'll adopt that and move forward. I'm going to ask the Workforce Board, we actually have you listed first. We have Chairman Dickey has a conflict. We're on the second hearing of his bill. I think it'll be brief, but if we could and would, I would like to go to Chairman Dickey first on House Bill House Bill 970. So we'll do that while you're going around, Chairman Dickey. We're still working off the original bill, LC 491635. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that, you tell us.
I do. I appreciate you, Mr. Chairman.
We've had this before, but I appreciate you if you just give us a
it is the exact same bill here last week, and I appreciate you bringing it back for consideration. Be very quickly, the two things that this bill changes is from previous legislation was the human trafficking, and y'all had some questions on that, and I'll address that. And then the appropriations funding portion of it is, and President Lynn Riley is right behind me if we have some other questions. But the main questions several of you had, the applications, as y'all have, several of you in here know, with involvement with the REACH program, the applications are local, and you have a small local contingent to at each school that goes through the applications. It's usually teachers or a principal, maybe a local person, but those applications are very confidential and never shared with anybody else at a local level. They just choose the appropriate number of scholars there, subject to the qualifications that they could put forth, and they are not subject to open records request at all. And so no one will know other than they would be a low-income student. That is the only. So they would be very, very careful of using the human trafficking criteria too. And I think it'd be pretty low use. So I just really don't see the governor's office and folks at the local level just don't disclose criteria and applications. Those are very confidential. So that is the bill. Great scholarship program for our students to go to our technical college or university. Y'all all know that. So thank you for considering this bill, and that we can keep REACH scholarship program strong and continuing it in the future. And that's what this bill is about, to make sure this program continues at the same level and hopefully grows in the future for our students, low-income students. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Getting order here. Representative Burnell, number one over there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming back and attempting to clarify that. However, I do know that in order for these students to qualify, I know that in some districts, they bring in community leaders who read over the applications. They're not read at the school. They have community leaders that come in and they review the applications and determine which students should be accepted. And so I still stand by, I'm not going to vote against it, but I still stand by that I don't think that it's necessary to have that wording in a bill.
Okay.
At the proper time.
Representative Glaze, do you have a question?
I do have just a suggestion. It is community leaders do come in and review the applications. I'm a community leader, and that's why I've been on the REACH committee for Fulton County several times. I do think that there's an easy way right at the district level to make sure that that information is not in. So maybe just something that we'll put out with DOE and just says to make sure that that information is not in the folder. I think
Chairman
we can
Riley,
do that.
I'm sure could
You
speak
will
to
do
that.
that.
I think she's heard y'all's concerns loud and clear about that, and I know she's very, very capable of making sure.
Yeah, she'll make
those
sure.
concerns are taken care of.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that that'll take place.
Thank you, Representative. To be clear here, nobody has to if there's a box in there, nobody has to check it. This is not a requirement for that. So if someone is concerned and doesn't want to share that information, in fact,
Correct.
none of this is there's a baseline criteria that one has to meet, but any of the other criteria don't have to be checked. Any further questions? Go back, Representative Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine was very similar. I was thinking that maybe after they meet one or two of the criterias, maybe if it's something that was last, and if the person meets those, and that will be one of the last things that could be handled through a committee or something, and a community person, may not have to go through that step.
I think you're absolutely right. That's will be how it works.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want, as a retired educator and someone who is very sensitive to children and their information being identified, and as a person who you could lose your certificate if you are exposing things about children. And I cherished my certificate. It was very important to me. And so that's why I continue to bring up that objection. And while we know that, we hope that people will not say anything, but you never know. Thank you.
You know, I want to say again, nobody's required to do anything. I mean, I will throw this suggestion out because I'm a little bit like a calendar. Sometimes I'm right once a year. For instance, you might take this. This is a quite touchy subject. You might have an envelope that goes with the application where one might put does this item on line 32 apply to you? You know, the victim of human trafficking. You might have the explanation of that go in an envelope and be sealed, never to be opened unless it becomes an issue, right? So you never, if you, it's there's a paradox about it. It's if a box is sealed and so forth, if you never open it, you never know. So I mean, there's ways. I trust the process. It's been working for a number of years with other private information about students. So with that, if there are I see no further questions. We took comment on this bill. It has not changed, so we're in a posture to take action on LC 491635. This is the original bill, House Bill 970. Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend the bill author. I know the REACH program is something near to his heart and has worked on it for a number of years. So thank you for that. And also just want to thank our First Lady, who's done a lot of work on human trafficking as well. I know it's a group effort, but I want to thank her, too, for the awareness she's brought to that issue. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to pass.
I have a motion in multiple seconds. Excuse me. I have a motion in multiple seconds that this item move forward with a due pass recommendation. Is there discussion? Discussion on the motion? Just as if Chair just will mention in the process of discussion, another thing that is getting lost in our conversation today is Section 3, where the bar for people to participate at the lower level, the financial bar, the burden on local communities is lower. So we hope more folks will get to participate in it, Chairman Dickey, and that's worthy of not getting lost here. I know we talked about it quite a bit on our first meeting, but that's admirable. We have no further discussion. House Bill 970, LC 491635. The motion is due pass to the Rules Committee. There are no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. It moves forward unanimously to Rules. You know the drill, Chairman Dickey, with going to see the Rules Office.
Yeah.
Go ahead and see the Rules Office for their paperwork.
Mr.
Thank you, Chairman Dickey.
Thank you, committee, and thank you for letting me present this bill first. I've got another commitment, so.
Thank you. Representative Gamble, there you are. I'm going to let the Workforce Board talk a little bit because I think that's going to lay the runway for your plane to land, and if that makes sense. You agree with that batting order? All right. Mr. Peavy, if you would come up and bring your friends to educate us a bit more on how we can help this process.
Will do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the chance to do that. I will very quickly get out of the way and let the smart folks talk about this, but do appreciate the chance to bring that to your attention. Again, the State Workforce Board is administratively attached to TCSG. We provide that administrative support through our Office of Workforce Development. Brandon Nono here with me today is going to talk you through a little bit about the current establishment of the Workforce Board, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might got. So.
Thank you, Mark, and good to be with you all today. So I'll go over a couple of slides just giving an overview of the State Workforce Development Board and what it is and what its main functions are, and then take any questions that you all have. So first and foremost, the State Workforce Development Board is a body appointed by the governor to carry out and administer our state's portion of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. That is federal legislation that was signed into law in 2014 and rolled out to the state of Georgia in 2015 that provides workforce development services, including employment services, career services, and training services to parts of our workforce, specifically dislocated workers, low-income adults, and youth with barriers. But it also serves a wide variety of other parts of our workforce, including our special populations, so English language learners, veterans, etc. The State Workforce Development Board, and I'm going to actually move into the next slide in terms of its governance, is, like I said, it is grounded statutorily in federal legislation and law. Federal funds flow from the Treasury to the U.S. Department of Labor, which is sent to the governor, and the governor has the discretion to determine which entity will be the quote-unquote fiscal agent or the administrative entity that carries out this program and these funds. And he has selected the Technical College System of Georgia in the Office of Workforce Development, which is where I sit. Or concurrently at the same time, the governor also appoints members of this board. That includes a wide variety of groups and representatives. I'll get to composition in just a moment. But once the governor receives the funds, designates the entity, which is in this case TCSG, and the board members, we serve as staff to the board to carry out its functions that I'll get to in just a moment. The membership of the board is comprised into four main categories, as you will see on your slides. The vast majority of individuals, or the majority of representatives on the board, must come from the business. All right, there we go. Must come from the private sector and be members of the business community here in Georgia. We also have a portion of seats that are dedicated to elected officials, workforce representatives, which include labor organizations, employers that are involved with registered apprenticeships, community-based organizations, and organizations that are involved with serving our youth in the state. Other representatives that we do include on the board are representatives from our adult education and literacy providers and programs, our higher education partners. Here it says community colleges because this is language that we pulled directly from the law in our board's bylaws, but in this case, our technical colleges here in Georgia, economic and community development partners, Wagner-Pizer Employment Services, vocational rehabilitation, in this case, GVRA, the state agency, and other representatives as determined by the governor. The State Workforce Board, in terms of its structure, follows a traditional board and committee structure that you all are familiar with. Below the full board is an executive committee, which is comprised of the chair and the vice chairman of the board and all the heads of our individual committees. We have four committees currently. The first one is Performance and Financial Oversight Committee. That's the committee that, as it says in its title, oversees the program's performance, the WIA program performance, as well as the administration of these funds out to our local boards and local workforce development areas. We have a series of programmatic committees after that. Our Adult and Dislocated Worker Committee is a programmatic committee that focuses on how our workforce system is serving, again, dislocated workers and low-income adults and any special populations that would fall broadly under those categories. We have the same type of programmatic committee for youth. And then we also have our apprenticeship committee, which is the newest addition to the board to help expand and align our registered apprenticeship work here in the state of Georgia. The role of the board can be largely summarized in three main buckets. The first one, strategic functions. The second one, system capacity building. And the last one, system alignment and effective operations. I'll go through these just briefly, but I won't touch on every single one that you'll see here. In terms of strategic functions, we have to develop and implement a state plan per the federal law every 4 years, and that plan is put out for public comment, and establish performance measures, developing career pathways and strategies, developing expanding strategies for partnerships with in-demand sectors and occupations, and developing and aligning policies. The most notable role that our State Workforce Development Board plays currently is developing and implementing policies that are used to administer these programs in the state of Georgia. On the system capacity building side, they are charged with developing, continuously improving the one-stop delivery system, and also supporting our effective local boards. And there's a couple of other things on the slide as well. In terms of system alignment, they're charged with developing strategy for aligning technology and data systems, developing our local area allocation formulas for the local areas that also administer these services, developing a statewide LMI system, and developing policies and guidance around one-stop partner roles and resource contributions. And with that, that concludes the slides I have. I welcome any questions you have.
Do you see a couple, question number 10, is that Representative Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this presentation. This
Of
is
course.
enlightening for me. My question's about slide 4, where you broke down what membership looks like. And so it looks like at least half of the board has to be business representation. Are there any other categorizations that have to be met? Do a certain number have to be geographically diverse? Do you have
yes.
women and minority-owned businesses have to be represented? What else is making sure this is a representative board?
Per the law, it keeps it at the 51% business representatives. However, I will say throughout the lifetime of this board, one thing that the governor has been, and the governors that have been appointing members to the board are very mindful of, is making sure that these are representatives from in-demand industries, from all types of sizes of businesses, as well as representative of the various geographic regions. So we may have a number of manufacturing representatives on the board, but they may come from different parts of the state in manufacturing sectors.
So it's not necessarily in charter, but informally, there's an expectation and a reality that the governor respects that need for diversity.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Chairman Carpenter.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. Really not a question to you, more of an apology to you guys. I think last time we met, I kind of dug into Floor Leader Gamble about the makeup of the board, and maybe
Sure.
if I'd done a little more homework, I would have known what was going on. So
That's why we're here.
I appreciate you being here. Glad to get you out of the woodworks. Hey, at least I got you out of the
appreciate
cubicle this week, so
Right,
thank you
right.
very much. Appreciate you being here.
It's a much nicer office. Next time, yeah.
We're putting him back in that room with no windows and tying him to a chair shortly after. I'm joking. No, quite a good presentation. Do we have any further questions? Any further questions for the gentleman? Okay, so we have had our I was about to move on to the bill here, but we haven't properly heard from the governor's floor leader on this. But that is the crux of this. So let me, before you go, one more time before you return to that office with no windows. There was a question. I just want to mention. I'm going to speak to the bill a bit, but I'm going to assume you guys were involved in the creation, of the bill. With the workforce board, yes.
That's a
no?
great assumption, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we'll get to this when the representative comes up, but just on line 28, it says high demand career list. What we got into a bit before was list singular. Okay, and it is our understanding from the representative that presented the bill that the high demand career list, capital letters, a thing, could be made up of multiple lists geographically oriented. Can you confirm that's what you're
Yes,
that
Mr.
is still the
Chairman.
thinking, that the
That's
list is a thing, so it wouldn't have an S on it, but that one item would contain multiple pages of information
I
that
think it
could be referred
absolutely-
to as lists with a
Absolutely
plural.
can, Mr. Chairman. I think in particular, and Brandon and team manage, we mentioned last time around there are 19 local workforce boards.
Right.
And I think we would anticipate each one of those having an opportunity to say, hey, we've got some specific regional needs in our workforce board area that need to be added to that. So yes, Mr. Chairman, I think that's exactly what it contemplates.
Thank you very much. Did I get a question on?
Very brief question, if I could. On one of your slides, go along Representative Holland on the makeup. It mentions higher education,
That's
including
correct.
community colleges as representatives.
Yes.
2 quick questions. What are we referring to when we say community colleges?
We're specifically referring to our technical colleges. So on the state board, our commissioner, and then on the local boards, they have representatives from their respective technical colleges.
I assumed that, but didn't want to assume. Secondly, are any of our private colleges included in this?
On the state board, no.
Okay.
We'd have to follow up on local boards.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done.
Sure.
On that same slide that Chairman Dubnik just referenced, it said members of the State House are on the board. Who are those members that occupy that board now?
I think we're currently in the process of identifying a member. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. That's an open spot, and that's one that needs to be filled. We worked with the previous speaker and are now working with the new speaker to be able to get that spot filled. So
Gotcha. I was just curious.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's one that's open right now. We've been working to get that filled, and that's certainly something we look to do for here in the very near future. So
You might be hearing a volunteer there.
I'll leave that one to you, Mr. Chairman.
Just going to make an observation that probably it's not going to be my chairman from Rome. I don't know after his comments today, but thank you. So I was probably part of the the questions that we had regarding this, and I do thank y'all for coming by and speaking to me. And I do understand, Mr. Chair, and to the members of the committee, because I did have several questions as it relates to the list, making sure that we have regional differences identified in this list that did concern me, that it is subcategories that does take into account the different geographic needs that we have in workforce development all across the state. So thank you for that, Mr. Chair. Is that not true?
Thanks. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We'll move on now. We have HB 982. We're still working off. If you're ready, and you guys you're welcome to keep those folks up there with you if you want the support. We're working off LC 491609 EC House Bill 892.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. It's good to be back with you again this week on this important legislation brought to you as a recommendation from our governor as a part of his legislative package. I know that we've had a week now to answer questions and to study the language of this bill, and I know that most of y'all have taken the time to ask me questions that I've been glad to answer this week. I want to say again that I really appreciate the leadership of Chairman Dubnik in the House and Chairman Brass in the Senate with their Joint Study Committee on Dual Enrollment for Highly Skilled Talent at younger ages. And that's where this idea came from. They met, and last week Chairman Dubnik explained extensively the amount of time that they spent with that study committee to come up with the recommendations that they did and to invest in learning what they can do, what we can do to improve our workforce situation in Georgia. We've addressed the concern with board membership. I appreciate the opportunity to explain to you how the Workforce Investment Board is set up, and the House representation that we have, the Senate representation that we have. Senator Frank Ginn is the Senate member. The House seat is in the process of being filled. We've addressed, hopefully, and Chairman Perkle, I appreciate your comments, the concerns about the regional component. Every group that we've talked to with on this legislation has stressed the importance of having regional supplements to the statewide list. And so this is why on line 26, that language says that the State Workforce Development Board should identify careers that merit inclusion regionally or statewide. And so I want to reiterate to you the importance of why we need this. This is simplifying. We are not trying to make it more difficult for these careers to be identified. We are not trying to make it more difficult to advocate for the inclusion or the exclusion of careers. We're trying to make it easier to do that, because the system that we have in place right now is complicated, and this will bring clarity to what we currently have in place. And so with that, again, I appreciate Chairman Dubnik and Brass for bringing this attention to our attention and the opportunity to put this in the form of legislation to present to you today. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I don't see any questions at this time. I'm going to ask you to, if you would mind holding your spot. Given that we had the workforce, the presentation today, we talked about this in its first hearing, and the bill hadn't changed. But given that we had that presentation, there are 3 folks that have signed up to speak on it. I'm going to give them the opportunity, given that we heard that presentation today. The first one we have is Mr. D.A. King. Are you here, Mr. King? There you are. Just getting the bat in order, not rushing, but getting the bat in order to letting people know we have Ms. Miranda Williams and Cosby Johnson are the other 2 folks we have to speak in that order. Mr. King.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, my name is D.A. King. I am president and bottle washer at the Dustin Inman Society. We are an IRS 501c4 nonprofit formed for the purpose of urging people and educating them on the importance of enforcing our immigration laws. We are focused here on Georgia and have been since 2005. This is my 19th year on this campus talking about the same problem. We are going backwards on that problem in this state. This is relative to the Workforce Development Board and the, not so much the dual enrollment, but the apprenticeship program. I hope that we have not reached a stage in this state where we are considering people in the country illegally to be part of our workforce that needs to be trained. But nevertheless, I am told and assured by the Technical College System of Georgia that that is exactly what is happening. I cannot find an exclusion in any part of the law that formed or the bylaws that are, or the regulations that is operating the apprenticeship program or the high career, I always get the acronym wrong. High Demand Career Initiative. I get it. I can't find anything in there that was prepared when the law was passed that would exclude illegal aliens, and I am told that they are in fact participating in the program, and I am assured that equally surprisingly, H-1B workers are participating in the program that is billed as a workforce development operation funded by the taxpayer dollars to increase and expand the Georgia workforce. For those who don't know, an H-1B worker is here for 6 years. Short of applying for an adjustment of status, we're paying taxpayer dollars to educate what is already billed as a highly skilled employee that's here illegally who's a citizen of a different country. That person is not going to be here 6 years from the time their H-1B visa begins, and nevertheless we're doing it. Very quickly, for those who don't know, the apprenticeship program says that an employer can send an existing employee to be trained, upskilled at taxpayer expense, which will make the employer more money as it makes the employee more valuable. And there are a lucky few of those employers who will be paid up to and including $50,000 of taxpayer money for the privilege of sending their employee to be educated at state expense. This is lunacy, and a lot of people are starting to pay attention. I am here on House Bill 982 to suggest that it is the perfect vehicle to take our time and build in the safeguards that should have been done in the first place and make it clear that somebody who is an employee being sent to the program must be either a U.S. citizen or a lawful immigrant. And I stress immigrant because what I remarked on earlier, an H-1B worker, a temporary worker, is here on a non-immigrant visa. That person is not an immigrant, and everything you read in the bulletins about employing everybody who is work eligible would automatically exclude a non-immigrant. It's easily done. I can help if anybody wants it, but I hope nobody ignores me because this one is not going away. Again, this is the perfect vehicle. We have a limited number of slots for the apprenticeship program, the reward system for the employers. I want to make it equally clear that Georgia has illegal aliens as employers who are employing illegal aliens. There is nothing in the apprenticeship program that would require that you sort those out of the population. While Americans are waiting for this training, including America's poor, we are in fact including people in the country illegally and temporary workers.
Okay,
I hope my message is clear.
Mr.
Sir?
King, I've given you great latitude because
I'm done.
I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, but it has nothing to do with the piece of legislation that we have in front of us.
It's a perfect vehicle for solving the problem, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I mean, first of all, we're not. I personally am not going to turn the governor's initiative into a vehicle. We have a number of 180 House members that can introduce a bill. I do want to ask the attorney just to be clear of this. If Mr. Walker, we have, do we not? You've cited it to me several times in email. We have code in Georgia that prohibits people in the country illegally from getting a public benefit. Isn't that true?
It is true.
Okay, Mr. Attorney, is there anything in the apprenticeship bill that you're aware of that would circumvent that code section applying to everything that is in Georgia? I mean, what I'm getting, there was no exclusion in the apprentice bill that said that code section shall not apply to an apprenticeship.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get at with. I mean, I'm spending a little time on this because you addressed it.
I'm grateful for the time.
We'll get back to your bill, but I'm unclear as to if it's illegal to rob the bank in Georgia. That's illegal, and you open a savings and loan, and we didn't say it was illegal to rob that as well. It's still illegal to take that. So I'm unclear, and I'm happy to talk to you, offline and off this.
I can help with that if I had 30 more seconds.
Well, I'll give you the 30 more seconds, but I'm also, inclined to, want to stay on point of we don't put in every time we have a financial transaction, thou shalt not, steal. I don't want to quote the Bible, and when I said we have a statute that says theft by taking. We don't cite it every time we have a monetary transaction in Georgia. It is considered state law. And if someone is breaking, you mentioned if an employer is hires someone illegally in Georgia and they send them to the apprenticeship program, if they're breaking the law, tell them they can't break another law if they're a mind to do that. I'm not sure what we're trying to do. And so I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and I'm going to go to TCSG, and I want to address the issue of the apprenticeship program. Yes, sir.
The law you're referencing that you and I have traded thoughts on is OCGA 5036-1. I helped develop that in 2006 and was able, I'm very proud to say, assist in the rewrite process several times since then. A public benefit is clearly defined in that code. There's a long list of them. Apprenticeship program rewards is not on there. So the public benefit is not just a saying in the code. It is a very defined list. You could make the apprenticeship program a state grant. If you designate it as a state grant, it would then be on the list of public benefits. But I have to go back and say, since the knowledge is here officially that we have people in the country illegally and temporary visa holders participating in a limited taxpayer-funded program, it's difficult for me and a lot of other people to accept that there won't be an effort to fix it.
Well, I'm not sure there won't be an effort. You have to define to me what the problem is to fix, because I believe you sent me another note and cited where I replied to you and graciously thanked me for so doing. I consulted with Mr. Walker. If someone is here on an H-1B program, they are in the country legally, correct?
Lawfully, yes.
Lawfully, okay. And they are allowed to work in the country.
They are eligible to work.
Mr. Walker, going back to you again, part of the apprenticeship program requires, if we're going to do that, if you are lawfully available to work in the U.S., it has to be available to you,
That's
correct?
not true.
Federal law? Do you understand the question I'm asking? You pointed me toward a bulletin that I believe to have said that if you are eligible to work in the U.S., that you're eligible for the program. Am I mishearing that?
I would
I would probably need to have a
Fair
chance to
enough.
refresh my recollection.
Fair enough.
on that,
Well,
Mr.
be assured, Mr. King, I'll address your I thought I had it before, and we'll do so again. It is clear that we're not trying to circumvent anything, any part of that code section. And I don't, the fact that we don't put it on this bill today doesn't mean that we're not interested in fixing it, but I do want to move this bill forward. I think it has a lot of it has a lot of meaning to create these lists so that we can move forward. So, happy to work with you on that. With that, the last thing, Mr. Peavy, you and I had talked about the issue because Mr. King brought it to our attention and I brought it to you. Can you talk to us briefly about, are you aware of anyone currently in the apprenticeship program that would be addressed in Mr. King's comments?
Happy to do that, Mr. Chairman, and I will make this statement as the official representative for the Technical College System of Georgia. We are not aware of anyone illegally taking advantage of this program. The program is federally based. In order for, and it's all part of the Federal Registered Apprenticeship Program, in order for someone to participate, they have to be a legal employee of a company that is participating in the program, along with all the verified and other requirements that come along. And so that company has to have legally hired and legally employed an individual before they can take part of the apprenticeship program. That, as far as we know, we don't have anyone illegally taking a part of that.
What I want to ask you to do is we're going to move on with these additional speakers on 982 for Representative Gamble. But if you have a moment when we're finished, let's you and I get with Mr. King and Mr. Walker, if he has time, and investigate the difference of data we appear to have, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Fair enough, Mr. King?
It is. I'm going to go away before I read a sentence from a different employee of the apprenticeship, TCSG, about the apprenticeship program, who answered a direct question from my office telling me that we do have, her words,
and that's fair
undocumented
enough.
workers.
And you're welcome to bring that. I appreciate you for the privacy of the individual. I appreciate you working with us on that. If it's something that we need to make public, we can do that, and we will correct it, if it's wrong. But we'll get to the bottom of it.
I'm very grateful for the time, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely do it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Williams.
Well, hey everyone. My name is Miranda Williams, Southeast Legislative Director for ExcelinEd in Action. It's great to see all of you in my home state of Georgia, and I'm excited to work with you all on advancing education outcomes for all of Georgia's students. Our organization works with state lawmakers and partner organizations to pass legislation that empowers families with educational opportunity, prepares students for college and career, and prioritizes early literacy grounded in the science of reading. It expands innovation and strengthen school performance. I'm testifying today to express ExcelinEd in Action's support for House Bill 982. I would like to thank Governor Kemp, his team, and Leader Gamble for bringing this legislation forward. Georgia has demonstrated its commitment to student outcomes, and this bill would continue to build on that success. As we continue to fill the many jobs Georgia has to offer, we must have alignment across our state agencies to better connect the education system with Georgia's current and future jobs. I would also like to thank Chairman Dubnik for his work on this issue. If Georgia passes this legislation, it will join Mississippi in working to collaborate across education, business and industry, and workforce systems to identify credentials of value, streamline workforce opportunities, and analyze data to move the state forward. Establishing a state-level single list of high-demand careers will allow the many partners to align on the state's Education to Workforce initiative. It is our understanding that regional subsets of the list will be created to capture the various needs of Georgia. Identifying industry value credentials aligned with high-demand career list will ensure students are earning credentials that are needed in the state and regional labor markets. Analyzing outcomes such as employment and wage attainment of individuals completing high-demand programs will allow Georgia to better steward its resources by investing more deliberately in programs that demonstrate results and reduce expenditures on programs that do not yield benefit to students. We urge you to pass House Bill 982 to create a single industry credential list and provide annual insights into credential alignment and program outcomes. Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Any questions? Thank you very much. Cosby Johnson. Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Hey there.
Cosby Johnson with the Georgia Chamber. I'm going to be short here because I don't want to outpunt the coverage. I appreciate the work that you all have done on it. Appreciate the work of Leader Gamble as well as the governor. We are in full support and have taken a position of support for the Georgia Chamber throughout our whole businesses. We've also, with the help of Mark coming to talk to our group, and we're thankful for that, have also scorecarded the bill. So we're not only in favor, but we have also put forward a scorecard position. So thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
I have no further speakers on the bill. I'll go back. I don't really think you had anything you need to speak to, unless you feel inclined. I don't want to cut you off. I have three questions or people that are waiting in line to get you moving forward. What you have the order there? Number 18, Representative Carpenter, Chairman Carpenter. I'm sorry, Dubnik. Yes, sir.
At the appropriate time.
All right, hang on. Let's go down that. Number 27, who is that?
Ditto.
No. You appear to have a lot of friends, Representative Gamble. All right, so if there are no further questions, I want to make sure we no questions. No questions in that. Well, I do have a question. Number 25.
Oh, just the timing, and will my children be able to see it?
Absolutely. Yes, they will be able to. Well, how old are you?
They will be all.
21 and 23. Yeah. Right in the zone of needing to see this.
That's right.
Now, in all seriousness, this is silent, so it would go into effect July 1st. And,
That's correct.
You know, they would. I don't know if there's a timing on creating the list, but I would think they would try to move so
expeditiously.
You know, I'm not going to slow us down, but I hate it when I do this. I do, because I meant to get with you on something. One of the things as it moves forward, you require them to do it once a year. You may want to say, or just inquire with council, you may want to say at least once a year. There may be a chance where you want to be able to do it more than once, but I'm not going to hold you up on that. Representative Dubnik, Chairman Dubnik.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion this bill do pass.
I have a motion, multiple seconds, that this bill do pass. This is LC 491609-EC, House Bill 982. Is there discussion on the motion? Discussion. Hearing no discussion on the motion, all those in favor do pass recommendation sending this along to rules. House Bill 982, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. I hear none. It moves on to rules with the do pass recommendation. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our agenda. Let me just make a quick announcement. We will try to meet next week before Wednesday. We are going to have a discussion on legislation related to the approved school area of the TCSG that we talked about before. So I'm going to socialize that legislation after it's dropped and get, so we'll do that outside of our normal Wednesday meeting if at all possible. With that, if there's no objection, we'll stand adjourned. Hearing no objection, we're adjourned.